For all verified facts, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome. The Union Budget 2021 is upon us, well, almost, and the temptation to raise taxes is very high. The reason, of course, is the economic and health shocks that we've sustained thanks to the pandemic in 2020, and that's something that we are still recovering from. While India may have moved a little faster, and at least at this point seems to be showing healthy signs of recovery, the rest of the world, particularly the Western world, is still reeling from COVID-19. All of this obviously has an impact on how things are going to pan out fiscally and monetarily in the years to come, and more specifically the year ahead. So what could the government be doing when it comes to direct taxes? Should it be raising taxes as it might be tempted to? If so, where could it do in a manner that the hit is not so heavy? And if not, then what are the other options that the government has to raise revenue, which it surely needs, given the fact that the year 2019-20 or 2020 calendar was a very, very difficult one. So on that note, let's go across to both our guests to get a sense on what they are looking out for and would like from the Union Budget 2021. I'm joined by Amit Rana, Partner Tax and Regulatory at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and also Girish Vanvari, Founder at Transaction Square. Amit joins us from Gurgaon and Girish joins us from Mumbai. Thank you both for joining me. So Amit, why don't you go first? So how are we going into this Union Budget from a direct tax point of view, and what are the key things that you would like or expect?
Thanks, Govind. So, yeah, it is indeed a tough place for the government. All the numbers that we've seen, the collections are abysmal in this year. And the government really needs to perk up recovery. But there aren't any real sources because if they do try and increase taxes, that goes the other way potentially. So they will need to be very, very creative. And honestly, I see little that the government can do in terms of raising additional tax revenue. The few things that they could try and do, though we would discourage them, is again try and tax more the super rich. But that has the other effect. You can start driving out people from the country because we are already at the highest rate of almost 43% for the super. So honestly, I see little that they can do on the revenue side to raise taxes. If anything, the industry is expecting them to give a lot more, which can stimulate demand, which can increase investment. So that's really, I would say, what the industry is expecting: the government to be creative in non-tax areas, in this investment, issue bonds, do those kind of things, but don't really come after us for more taxes.
Right. Okay. So give us another illustration of what the government could do creatively to maybe help improve the investment climate or the tax-paying climate, for that matter.
So so there is a bunch of things that are expected or hoped for at least. So there is the COVID impact. Let's focus on that for a minute. So there is a few things happening because of COVID. The losses that businesses have sustained and they are running up. There were many things that would have come on stream during this year, but because of the COVID disruptions haven't happened. So those are areas, or people have come into India, got stuck, people have traveled outside India, got stuck. So these are things that the government could address. So for example, if there are losses being incurred, currently the period for loss carry forward is 8 years. They could think of extending that. Where businesses have stopped or not started certain activities or plans that they were envisaging. For example, they could have been thinking of claiming certain tax holidays where the sunset for last year, like in software under 10AA. That sunset could be extended. Or there could be restructuring for small enterprises, large companies, because many businesses have not done well. So the restructuring provisions also could be made more friendly, because today the tax neutrality on restructuring is restricted in situations where you're doing for an industrial undertaking, which owns actually manufacturing. But there is a whole bunch of services sector, the new technology sectors which are there. So that's one area. then people coming into India and got stuck in India. That triggers their personal tax issues. That triggers permanent establishment type issues. And again, these are large corporates, but the world around has gone and addressed these. OECD, for example, is also canvassing that you should address these, but India should also make a start on that.
Right. Okay. So acknowledge that companies, individuals have had to face dislocations, damage, hurt, and therefore go easy on them. I mean, even if you don't tax directly, but at least don't go after them. Okay. Girish, what's your key expectation and hope?
See, actually, the way I look at it is that though there is a lot of feel good because of the stock markets, markets are doing very well. Some sectors are doing very well, like pharma, IT. So there's a lot of feel good. But there are a lot of sectors which are reeling and which need help. If I look at, say, tourism, if I look at travel, if I look at different elements of the economy like real estate, they're all reeling. So there is clearly a case to give some incentives to facilitate people to move, to facilitate people to take holidays, so that the beleaguered sectors come back. So there is clearly a case to have the tailwinds of interest fall, coupled with interest deductibility or leave travel concessions or standard deductions, something which enables the public at large to spend more, which helps the beleaguered sector. So clearly, there is expectation that the common man at large should have some more money in his pocket to help spend, which will help the beleaguered sectors to come out of COVID. All is not good. Stock market is not an indicator that the economy is on the roll. Then the question is that
Right.
how will the money come and how will the fiscal deficit be met? So clearly, if you see the spending of all the economies, vis India is far more. So there is a need for deficit financing. So anything like a 5.8 or 5.9% deficit, market will be fine with, economy will be fine with. So printing notes, disinvestment, and there are two fears which are very solid. One fear is that is there a case to levy COVID cess? So yes, we may not increase the rate, but can we levy COVID cess? And the second fear is that the markets are doing very well. People are making money, and it's gone to 50,000, and there's a lot of profit in the market. So is there a case to tax it? So that long-term rate of 12%, is there a case for that to be something more than that? May not be 28, but something in middle of that, which can collect revenues. So I really see SOPs coming to people at large, and don't forget corporates. If you want to foster the Atmanirbhar concept, there is a need to have some R&D concessions, some PLI extension, something which facilitates manufacturing and employment creation to happen. So I see
Right.
SOPs coming for individuals, SOPs coming for corporate, and worrisome is capital gains tax.
Right, so that the capital gains, which did not exist at all, obviously got imposed last
Yes.
year, and now you're saying that it could actually go up further. I mean, obviously because markets have gone up.
Yes. So the way I look at it is, see, the long-term rate for unlisted is 28, for listed is 12. Is there a case for somewhere in between 15 to 17? Or and there's so much money which has been made in the market. So is there a case to tax it? So that's where I think revenue collection would happen. Is there a case to raise STT rates? Because STT also is a very big source of revenue. The multiplier effect is a lot. So the sector which is doing well, and there are sectors which really need help. I mean, you and I are not the barometer of everything being right. It's the beleaguered sectors, and I really come across 50% of the economy in that mode where there is no job creation all the day. Salary cuts are still there, and real estate is still empty, and so on and so forth. So they
Right.
need help.
Okay.
Look at the results. Look at the
Right.
Indigo
Okay.
results. I mean, airline
Amit,
sector.
let me put this one to you. Yeah, let me put this one to you. So, long-term capital gains. It looks like the goose that one must that is laying a golden egg. Obviously, with markets having run up all the way to 50,000 and now subsequently receded in anticipation of precisely things like this happening, which is more taxes or some other kind of burden. So, what's your sense?
See, as I said, there is only so much that you can tax the economy. So while markets have run up, but what is driving that is all of this liquidity, and this is very money which can move around very quickly. So the way it's come, it can go out also very quickly. So as what we just heard, so while it gives a feel good, the market's being up, but it does give a feel good. So anything that you do, we've seen the markets are very, very sensitive to these taxes. And if you suddenly have a turnaround, that entire feel good goes away, and that is worth a lot, I feel, in the current environment that we are in. We really need to have feel good. So I just think that it's, even if they try to tax that, it's not going to give you any, sustained revenues. It's going to be probably one time, but the money will run out equally quickly, because ultimately it's all a question of IRR. So there are other markets which will also come back. So you can't tax them, forever. So if there is a certain maths that the government doesn't say that, okay, that okay, we can tax it up to 15%, 20%, and that will still not have an impact. I'm not so sure, because the stock markets, the capital markets have been so sensitive to these taxes. And this money is, come in, run out, this is capital, the portfolio flows. So I would really advise the government not to do that, and really look for other places to raise revenue and funds, instead of taxing more.
Right. Okay. So, Girish, on personal tax, do you see that is there any opportunity there? And what are the other ways that the government could potentially raise income from any other form of taxes? I mean, we're still in the direct space, either personal or corporate. But the other thing is, corporate taxes have been brought down at a time when people maybe would have liked it, but did not really expect it. So, do you see that changing?
I see a big opportunity for personal tax reduction, because the sectors need support. Where I fear at personal tax level is HNI taxation still going up, some lack of clarity on NRI taxation, which can still lead to a lot of money coming in the system. And don't forget, HNI and individuals have also made a lot of money on the stock market. So it's good to give a lot of incentives to support the sectors, and just one tax of capital gains tax can get the results which they want. Now, is it equitable to levy capital gains tax? I mean, I would argue it otherwise. Like, why should this be taxed at 12% when all the other sources of income are taxed at a higher rate? So there is some case, and there is some case to make. The only thing that can stop it, perhaps, is the disinvestment agenda of the government. If an LIC IPO has to come, or all the things which they're talking about, FPO of sale, FPO of PFC, REC, if that has to happen, then they have to keep the market stable. That's the only thing which will be the watch point. Otherwise, I think that's one area HNIs have to really worry about, capital gains tax.
Right. Okay. Okay. I mean, there's an interesting sort of difference or variation in views here, not unexpectedly, of course, between the two of you. But let's go to tax administration. Amit, tax administration is another issue which is not new at all, where there is always concern about whether the government is doing enough to make life simpler for businesses, which in turn sometimes can be a good substitute for taxes either going up or being higher.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a tremendous amount of change that this government has really brought about. The most recent, of course, is this entire faceless regime that has been implemented. Now, there is criticism of the faceless regime because people believe that it will be very ineffective, and therefore personal interface is required. But I would argue that in balance, it is a fairly progressive change. So they've done that. They've brought in the Vivad se Vishwas scheme to address past disputes. Again, there can be a debate: is it enough that the government has done to incentivize companies to come in and settle? But I can tell you, there is very healthy interest and participation in that. It would not address the entire 9 lakh crores which are stuck in dispute, but there will be. It'll have an impact, certainly. So that's what the government has done. I would, and simplification. For example, the new 26AS, you can almost file an automated return now, yeah, for individuals. So a bunch of stuff has happened. I would reckon that the government will continue that. But a few things that we would really like the government to do more is more certainty on some of the more complex tax issues, and better dispute resolution, because this whole 9-10 lakh crores which has been created in disputes is because of the dispute resolution process not being as effective as we would like. So on the dispute resolution, we hear that mediation is something that could come about, which is like, you get an independent person to come and mediate between the government and the taxpayer. That was apparently recommended by a committee set up by the CBDT last year, but didn't see the light of day last year. Maybe we'll see that. So that we are hoping is something that will
Right.
happen from administration side for the current year in the current budget.
And Amit, have you been or involved in cases with faceless scrutiny or faceless representations?
Yes, yes. So while right now it's very slow, meaning that most of the administration attention right now has been focused on VSV. So we've not had a lot of cases coming up, but yes, we have been. Initial these questions come,
Right.
and to be very honest, it's not much different as yet past, but I just feel it's teething, and as things settle down, we will see much
Okay.
more of improvement in the whole engagement for audits and assessments and appeals, and the government is just going the whole hog, and penalties and recoveries, everything is going to become faceless. So there is again a school of thought which says that is the government doing too much too quickly, but I don't think anyone's arguing with the direction in which this is going.
Okay. Girish, tax and administration, what can be done to make life easier for either individual taxpayers or corporate taxpayers, particularly small and medium enterprises?
I think that's the biggest game changer which can come through. So if I spoke about the fiscal deficit, that is disinvestment and other sources of income, I think coming up with a dispute resolution mechanism which is quicker, which solves problems, which actually leads to realization of all the money stuck in litigations is something which this budget will surely come up with. There is a big value unlocking which we can do. Vivad Se Vishwas has done some bit of it, but this is like 2-3 lakh crores which can come out very easily to meet the concessions which can be given on the other fronts. So I see a lot of things happening here. On the faceless assessments, I think if you ask people who have actually gone through faceless assessments or digital taxation, it's an absolute chaos at this point of time. Every small query is gone back and forth 12, 15 times. Glitches are too many. I think you have to see it evolve. And actually, the tax office has been dysfunctional for the last 9 months. So, really, there's no progress which has happened this year on the various initiatives, and it will really evolve with time. So, I don't really want to prejudge it today, but at the ground root level, there's a lot of glitches. But really, a dispute resolution scheme which unlocks value can get us the tax collection which we need to support the parts of the economy.
Right. Okay. So we're running to the close of this conversation. So let me get a sum up from both of you. Amit, first you, if I were to ask you to list roughly 3 points that you would like to see from this budget. Now, if you could expand that the scope now, I was trying to get you to focus on smaller enterprises, individual taxes. But if you were to now look at the entire gamut of what you deal with, what would be the 2 or 3 things that you would most like to be addressed or even delivered?
So first, I would say that stability of the tax regime is very critical right now. We want to let the businesses do what they do best and get the recovery going. So first, I would say what they should not do. Don't tinker around. Don't bring anything which will be retroactive, and don't get anything which requires management attention to get focused on taxes. Let the management deal with what they are doing. So if anything, only bring positive stuff, nothing negative. So that's one thing. A stable regime. Don't try and get anything
Sure.
innovative, which can be a unpleasant surprise for businesses. Second is, I would say some of these COVID related issues which are coming up. We would really like the government to address these. Whether it's as I said, people stuck in India, what happens to them, what happens to PE, what happens to individual taxation, the losses, tax holidays, all of that, which has got into a disarray because of COVID. would really need to be addressed. And so that's the second piece that I would say. Then the other one, which we would really like to see from the government, is this whole dispute thing. So it's critical. I mean, I completely agree with Girish that not only to resolve the past, but also give certainty for future. So can we bring a mechanism by which businesses can get certainty, can get more clarity, better, a more robust ruling process. So those kind of things which can improve the administration side, unlock the past dispute, help
Right.
the government. And related to that, I would say that they brought in these lower tax rates last year, which you were mentioning that it was a pleasant surprise no one was expecting. But that again is restricted to manufacturing. Now, there is no reason in an economy which is 40, 50, 60% services. Why should that those kind of things only be for manufacturing? I know the government has that as a big agenda, China plus one, etc. But services, technology, these sectors are really, really fueling the economy right now. Why would you not give similar incentives and link it to investment, link it to employment generation, or at least give those benefits to the wider cross section of the economy? And the point is that I feel if you do only for incremental investment, you're not even eating away at the existing revenue pie. You're not giving away. You're not. It's not largesse
Right.
that you're giving. So that's what I would say.
Right. Okay. Girish, last word from you. Your
I would
three.
I would just say three simple things. Be bold, let the deficit go larger, no problem. Spend so that the economy picks up. Give concessions to individuals, don't worry about it. Let the things go in the right directions, be it real estate, auto, be it different kinds of travel, leisure, so that economy really moves forward. And I would also say go ahead and do all the incentives required to the corporate to make sure that Atmanirbhar Bharat or the opportunity which India has today in chemicals, pharma, other manufacturing sector goes up. How will the money come? Have a very, very rigorous implementation plan for disputes, have a implementation plan for disinvestments, make the money happen through non-tax sources, and really support the economy, I would be.
Okay, thank you very much. So, make the keep the process simple. Make sure there is certainty, as all tax experts have always argued that don't spring surprises. Make sure that dispute resolution is more efficient and gives back money to those for whom it has been stuck for many years and maybe even longer. And of course, try and not touch taxes except for maybe capital gains, if I've as the last resort. I'm assuming that's what you meant, Girish. On that note, thank you very much for joining me, and we look forward to speaking to you once we have the budget papers in our hand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.